Phil, come to the end of the transfer window now. Talk me through how the last few days have been.
It's been an interesting last few days. In fact, interesting last few weeks. Obviously, I think the big story is selling Yoane Wissa. So let me just start to talk a little bit about that. But let me compartmentalise that a little bit into two parts, really, which is, let's first of all talk about his 4 years here up to the end of last season, where he was a fantastic player for us, did a great job. Obviously, started off playing wide, evolved to take on the number 9 position, had a brilliant season last year, was a really good, infectious character, positive around the players, with the fans, and personally liked him a lot as well. So nothing but good things to say about, obviously, his performances on the pitch for us. Clearly, obviously, going into the summer window, transfers are always complicated, right? There's always a little bit of emotion and friction and dialogue, and normally that obviously stays in house. Normally, obviously, this one spilled out. Not the only one this summer that spilled out a little bit more into the public domain, which is, from my point of view, probably not ideal. But nevertheless, it happened, and we had to manage that. But for me, fundamentally, when you have to make a decision about transfers, and sometimes complicated decisions, right? Decisions which are impactful on the pitch, but also off the pitch in terms of the club's whole overall position. You need to stay focused on what's the right decision for the club, not whether it's in public or not in public, or you've got to take the emotions out of it, and you've got to make a good decision ultimately for the club. So every decision I make, or we make collectively, during the transfer window, will strip all the emotion out of it and just focus purely on what's the right decision in this moment of time for the club overall, combining both short-term need and long-term position and opportunity.
How difficult has that situation been over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, no. For me personally, no more difficult than many other transfer windows. I think maybe it just slipped out a little bit more publicly this time than normal, so people got maybe a bit more insight into how things tend to play out, they're all transfer windows are quite complicated. We're dealing with human beings at the end of the day who have their own kind of career and life and opportunity and dreams to follow, but then against that, a pretty hard sort of contractual position which needs to be respected. And my focus is always on, it has to be the right decision for the club first and foremost before we take any decision.
Obviously, that's one of a number of changes over the summer. How would you assess the window overall?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there was a lot going on, a lot of change. I mean, that's pretty obvious from the outside, probably certainly more than we normally have, especially obviously with the coaching staff and obviously Keith coming in. But with change comes opportunity, right? And you don't, if you keep things constant and static, you'll stay where you are. So change brings opportunity, whether that's short term or long term. And I think if you look at it in a case by case basis, every player who left, albeit we lost some more let's say established players, we've tried to replace with equivalent players who can obviously spend are a good level now, and there's big opportunities for them to develop and grow. So we take Yoane, for example. A really good season last year. It was his 4th year here, and Eagles come in, had a good start in terms of good goal scoring, and he's in effectively his first year, right? I mean, it's his second year. It's effectively his first year. We're starting from scratch, really. So really exciting to see the opportunity that those players who've now taken those roles, where they can take it and how they'll develop. And yeah, it's an exciting time, I think.
I think you touched on it there with some of the departures as well, but how much of it is proactive versus being reactive with what's going on here and elsewhere in the football world?
It's always a combination of both. You want to be as proactive as possible. So, if you go back right to the start, it seems like ages ago, right? At the start of the summer when we replaced, when obviously Mark Flecken left and we replaced with Caoimhín. That was obviously pretty proactive. We had that all lined up to plan. We don't want to leave a gap. Have a gap there. So pretty proactive. Towards the end of the window when things started to become a bit more active around Yoane's situation and there was a feeling, okay, well, maybe this valuation might get met at some point. You start to make sure that you've got options on the table. And so Reiss coming in, for example, wasn't something which a week ago was necessarily nailed down and planned. But he's a player who's been, obviously, we've known him for a long, long time. He's been, other different loans. He was at Fulham last year, played against us. Last year, played very well. We were dominated in that game, which I've already said I want to see that from him the other way around this year. So that's exciting as well. So yes, that was a bit more of a okay. Well, how can we make sure that we still remain strong? That there's enough depth in the squad, and also factoring in at the minute that we don't have a huge number of injuries which we've had in the past. So actually, if you look at it, we're stacked full of Premier League players. I'm really happy with the depth of the squad. And clearly, there's some with Yoane leaving. If we were anything happened to Eagle, we need to adapt. But again, we've done that in the past when Ollie stepped into that role. If you sold Neil Maupay, I remember back in those days when we sold Neil, we actually bought a player called Nico Corellis on loan. So not on loan, I think we signed him permanently, but only on a 1-year contract. And he came in to fill that role and did an ACL pretty much instantly, which obviously was not ideal. We spent that year kind of rehabbing, but that created the opportunity for then Ollie to step into that role, and he developed and evolved, took the opportunity, and then never looked back. So, listen, not having like-for-like replacement isn't necessarily a problem if you've got adaptable players. And I think we've got adaptable players, and I think I like the look of our squad. It's a good squad.
As you've said, we've got a relatively fit squad right now as well. And how important is that, and how positive is that across the summer window?
Yeah, well, it's obviously it plays a part in decision making, right? Obviously, in previous windows when we've gone in with carrying long-term injuries, you have to just think about how we mitigate that. This time, it's more about actually who's in the squad now and how do we create opportunity for them to play. I'm really, really excited to see Aaron Hickey back, fit and ready to play every game. That'll be really exciting to have that opportunity as well. And there's other players I could probably name who and I think they probably name themselves, would like to see him play a bit more. And obviously, when everyone's fit, it does create competition for places, but it also means not everyone's getting all the minutes they want. So, yeah, listen, I think the squad's in a good place.
You mentioned obviously a change in head coach as well, and that also brings a change in playing style. How has that adapted how we've gone into the window? Yeah,
so a lot of the conversations we had when we reflected back on last year with Keith and obviously the coaching staff was, where can we see our team improving? Well, they were pretty good defensively, scored a lot of goals, but clearly defensively was the end of the pitch you'd like to have seen us be a bit stronger, and that was the opportunity to improve. So that was a big focus for the summer, for Keith, for the coaches, and that's obviously led to a slight change in the way that we structure the team and organise it. And I think the first 4 games we looked pretty organised and pretty solid and not giving away huge opportunities. And I don't remember having he's been throwing himself around, having lots of saves to make. So from that end of the pitch, pretty positive. Obviously offensively, it'll take time a little bit to adapt and gel. I think we can be probably a bit better there, and obviously, but not helped by the two of the front three being effectively new in the team. So relationships need to be built. That'll take a bit of time. Players need to adapt and obviously grow into the positions in the club and the league. So yeah, I think that provides opportunity as well. So listen, I see no reason why, as the season unfolds and Keith gets a chance to work more and more with the players and the coaches in general, that will not get better and better at both ends of the pitch and can't be really successful.
Thanks, Phil.